Hey guys, it's Phil here. I just wanted to do this video explaining about how my schedules work, how we get our schedules, how we bid for our schedules, and things of that nature. So, if you don't know how aviation schedules work, we have what are called bids. And so basically, depending on the kind of the company, our airlines, we typically have a 2 month bid period. So that means that every 2 months we request multiple schedules and we're awarded one of those schedules. Those schedules are based on company demand, and more importantly, they're based off of seniority. So, how the seniority works is basically the longer you're at the company, the higher you are priority for for getting the run that you want. The longer you're here, the more likely you are to get the runs that you want, the more senior runs that, either get you the hours you want or in the location you want, things of that nature. Uh, some of our most senior runs are runs that take you international. You don't do a lot of work, but you fly, making some pretty good money, getting a lot of extra perks and things of that nature. Where some of the more junior runs, you're basically flying in the middle of the night every night, sometimes doing 2 or 3 legs for multiple hours a day. And so seniority is key. The faster you can get seniority, the better your life is going to be. So how we work is we have basically three types of ways that the schedule can work at my company. Every 2 months you bid on it. You have We have several hundred lines for all of our pilot pool. They're divided by captain and first officer availability. The senior you are on each one, the more likely you're going to get it. And so what you would do is each run will have a number. You request these lines, and they'll start by everybody who requests that line. The most senior person will get that line who's requested it, go on to the next line, and so forth for those lines. Um, when you first start, you're most likely going to be on open reserve. And so at my company, we call it open reserve, but basically you're just on call. You're on call pretty much every day of the month. Now, for our open reserve, because we're a home-based company, we're not a hard-based company. Some companies, you have a specific base that you have to commute to and work out of. Well, our company, they send you where they need you, so you can be anywhere. So, for example, I live in Los Angeles. Los Angeles is my primary base, which means that no matter what run I get, they have to buy me a ticket and send me from Los Angeles to start that run. Where if I were some of the companies I worked for, I had to travel under my own volition. So I was based in Denver at one of my companies, and so I had to use my pilot privileges, which allows me to jump seat or to list on an airlines to get there, and I had multiple times and all that stuff to try and get out there, but it was on me. The company wasn't going to buy me a ticket. I had to take out of my time to commute to start that run. And there's ups and downs where being home base is very desired by a lot of people because they have to pay for you to get there. But really, I think one of the biggest downsides about being home based is they can send you wherever they want. For example, I live in Los Angeles, and a lot of our runs start on the East Coast. So even though they're buying me a ticket, I have to commute often, anywhere from 5 to 9 hours. That even though they bought the ticket over there to start the run, and a lot of times I don't end over on the West Coast. I end over on the East Coast, and so they have to get me there, but I still have to hop on a flight and come back to the West Coast, and that kind of sucks. Where if we had a basing in Los Angeles, I would just start and end in Los Angeles. So it really depends, Ideally, I think having a hard base where you live in base is the most ideal, again, because you have runs that start and stop there. You're typically always guaranteed to start and stop at that base. Um, but we don't have that. We have home basing, which has its ups and downs. So with our home basing, like I said, you can get open time. And so open time, or I should say, yeah, open time basically means, or open reserve, sorry, is basically you're on call How we do it is you have a 12-hour block, so you're working midnight to 12, 12 to midnight, right? And during that time, they can call you to work at any time. Typically, they give you like a 2-hour call out if they need you, and they have to commute you wherever they need you. I've had it happen when I was open reserve where, yeah, they would call me, and just most of the time, what at my company, what they would do is they would call me hours in advance. You know, I might even get a call a day in advance where they're like, hey, we're going to put you on a flight tomorrow morning to go catch a flight, to go move a plane from somewhere else. But the good thing about open time is you have a lot more flexibility. You know, when you have a hard line or a hard reserve line, these days you are scheduled to work or you are scheduled to be on call those days, and you have specific days off. And sometimes that locks you in where if I had a hard reserve line and they sent me somewhere to work, it's hard. I can't just be like, I'm on open reserve, I'm requesting 5 days off, and they send me back. You know, I'm less likely to get that, where if I'm on open reserve and I request days off, because I'm just kind of like up in the air and they can work me whenever they want, they don't have to worry about days where I'm not scheduled to work that they can't call me, I'm more likely to get those days off. That's how we work. Above open reserve is hard reserve. Hard reserve are just specific days that you are working and not working. The times may vary, so you might have, you know, specific hours during the day or night where they can call you. It's no longer just 12 a.m. to 12 p.m. And basically, it's open reserve, but you get specific days blocked out for days off. So you're basically bidding for what days you want off, and you don't care what days where and when you're working. I'm meaning what flights you got. Then we've got hard lines, and hard lines are basically just that. It's a line that you fly. You know where, when, what time you're flying, where you're going, what days you have off. And it's, you know, ideal to have a hard line because, you know what you're doing. You know, you may have one and dones where you're doing only one leg and you're done for the day. You may have it's ideal, especially as a first officer, if you're trying to maximize the amount of hours that you want to fly. This past month, I had 2 weeks of hard reserve in which I was trying to basically not fly as much as I want, and because I had flown a lot the month before, and so I was hoping that the more junior guys would pick up a bunch of lines, and they ended up sticking me on lines anyway. And so I was like, all right, I'm already flying. I want as many hours as I can. So I was volunteering for a bunch of extra lines. And originally I started off with, I was supposed to fly like 67 hours, but they kept changing my schedule due to filling me in where guys were calling out sick or fatigue, weather issues. And so when it was all said and done, I ended up ending with just 47 hours. So I got fewer hours, still below mins, but I got mins pay. So it wasn't ideal, but I still got to work, still got to fly, and that's what I love doing. So over here, I'm going to show you guys. This is our bid package. Put myself here in the corner. You don't need to see me. Close OBS here. And so when we get it, it shows our seniority, where we are in the sequence, so we have an idea how likely we are to get a specific bid. And so basically, if you look at it here at the top, tells you they're looking for one captain, one first officer. This is basically the bid line. And then once you come down here, we have certain colors. So the blue are TDYs, that's travel days. The white are the days you're working. It tells you when and where you're starting and stopping. Here we have Zulu time. So like here, you're going to be working 1800 Zulu, 2100 Zulu, 2200 Zulu, 09 Zulu. And so you're leaving Houston on this line at 2200 Zulu. You're getting to Cincinnati at 09 Zulu. So this is not all the flights in between. There might be other flights in between this, why it's so long. But you may be doing a turn or something like that, but it's just telling where you start and stop. Then here it says like H137. That's the actual line. So we have another page where it'll show you what you're actually doing. So the hours, the actual flights, what time it leaves, and more information on that. But this just gives you an overview of where it starts and where it stops. Let's see here. So we have the light blue and then the purple. So our light blue and purple are days off. The only difference between the light blue and the purple are we have what are called IDO days, and they're basically like light blue are days that you're not working, but they can still call you in and request for you to work. You can say you can not answer, and there's no penalty, but they can still call you. You're someone semi-active. Purple, those are hard days where they cannot call you, they cannot contact you. Those are your days off, and it's kind of like a union thing. But theoretically, they're both days off. We have these yellow lines. Yellow lines are just basically some specialty lines, like this one's going Wilmington to SUU, which I think that's a military base, flying the 7.6. Under here we have our hot reserve. So hot reserves for us, we basically it's a reserve line, like an open reserve line, but instead of being at home, you're set at a base. So like we have Seattle, Alliance Fort Worth, and so basically for these days you have a specific time where you go out, you pre-trip the plane, and then you're on call for that particular hours at that hotel. Some airlines you have like where you're at the airport, where you have a short call out or long call out. That's like our version of it. Then let's see, if we go down here, then we start our reserve lines. And so basically our reserve lines, it just tells you what days you're on reserve. For us, we're home based, so you basically are just at home, and it gives you a specific time that you're there, and you can be called, you can be scheduled, you can be called to do whatever they want. When you're bidding for the reserve schedule, it's not so much that you're bidding for flying, it's more like you're bidding for specific days off. So if you know that March 25th, or you have to be home, so then you would just go to the line, and any reserve line that has March 25th off, you just bid that line. But otherwise, you're just saying, I'm available, I can do whatever I want. You can do whatever you want with me. I just want to fly, or I just want to be at home, whatever. Down here, it's basically our block times. So this one's a split line. So you fly for the first month, and then the second month you have hot reserve. So this one's at Baltimore. And so this tells you how many hours you're going to fly and how many hours you're getting credit for. So you're expected to block for 60 hours and 52 minutes for the first month, and you're going to get paid for 61 hours and 28 minutes. Then the next month you're on reserve, it says that you're expected to block 0 hours, but we have a 60-hour min, so you're still going to get paid for 60 hours. This tells you that the first month you're going to have 0 days of reserve, second month you're going to have 14 days of reserve, right? And so that's basically how that works. Seniority is the key. The more senior you are, the more likely you're going to get those schedules that everybody wants. You want to fly a bunch, you got to be senior. You want to fly to the best places, you got to be senior. And so it just takes time. Depending on where you are, you might be on a reserve line for a long time. You might be on open for a long time. When I first got to this company, we were really flushed with first officers. So I ended up on open reserve for probably like about 3 months. After that, we had a big shakeup where a lot of pilots were transitioning to other majors. And I was able to get the hard reserve lines that I wanted. Now I'm kind of lower middle of the seniority. So I've been able to get hard lines pretty consistently. Sometimes I'll get a half hard line, half reserve line. So it really depends on how it's going and how, the month plays out. So that's basically how my schedule works, how our bid works. And again, it really depends on where you're at, how it may work for you. When I first started, we didn't have home reserves, we had hard bases. So you were basically bidding as to what lines you want at that specific base. And then if you wanted to move to another base, you had to request to move to another base. I worked at one airline where everybody worked at one base, and you were basically bidding for specific runs out of that base versus, or I should say, specific days, because everybody was doing the same run. So you were basically bidding for what time of day and what days you wanted off. And again, it was all seniority based as well. And so that's how it worked. So it really depends on your company, but for us, home basing, is pretty ideal for a lot of people because they just like the ability to not have to worry about commuting to a specific base, because sometimes you may go somewhere and we had a jump seater from Frontier, and she was based out of Atlanta. Was it Atlanta? Yeah. She was based out of Atlanta, and she was telling us that it was almost impossible to get a flight from Cincinnati to Atlanta. Like every time she went to try and get a flight, because the company didn't buy her a ticket, she had to commute on her own. She was constantly dealing with packed flights, which meant that she had to either like get up super early or try to get in the night before to start her schedule. And so she found out that, jump seating on cargo was a lot easier. Typically, jump seating on cargo, we're pretty much guaranteed to have an open seat, not just because of the bigger planes, but just a lot of people don't jump seat on us. But being home based, you don't have to deal with that. But the downside of being home based is you're at the whim of the schedule. So when I first started, we had a lot of LAX runs. And so I was constantly bidding for runs that started out at LAX because that's where I live. I would or wouldn't get it, really depended on the seniority and what was happening. But now we don't have as many LAX runs. So a lot of the runs that I get start me like on the East Coast, which means that even though they have to buy me a ticket, my job starts with me hopping on a plane, a commercial airline or a passenger airliner, and flying to another place, which could be anywhere from 4 hours to a 9 hour with connections and all that stuff. And it sucks, you might be working like 14 days in a row, and then at the end of the 14 days, you got to hop on a 6-hour flight back home. So that's how that works. And so that's a little breakdown of how my schedule works. You got to see how our big packages work and how my schedule goes. This past month, I opted to kind of take it a little easy after holidays. I was working really hard, so I had a half hot, half reserve line. So I spent 2 weeks in a hotel on call, and then I had 2 weeks off, and then I had 2 weeks of reserve, in which they worked me every day of those 2 weeks, and then I'm home for the next 10 days. But then next month, I have a flying line where I pick this line where I'm basically doing Seattle to San Bernardino every day. So I have a schedule where I'm basically in Seattle every morning. They put us up in a hotel, and it just kind of makes it a little simple. I didn't feel like hopping all over. I kind of like shorter flights, and I'm getting a good amount of hours, mainly because we do a lot of it's just a turn versus doing one and dones. And so I'm basically going to be flying for about 5 hours every day, every evening, flying from Seattle to San Bernardino, sitting for about 2 hours while they unload and load, and then back to Seattle. So if you guys have any questions, if you want to know about how other airlines work, we can get into that, how the bases work, all that good stuff. Feel free to leave some questions down below. Thanks for watching my videos, and I'll try to keep as active as I can. I was super busy these last few months, so I haven't really had the time to do stuff, but I'll try to keep you guys, abreast on what's happening with me. See ya.